Overnight mail is now part of the baby-making business. Embryos are being shipped across the country to couples hoping to expand their families.
That's part of a growing adoption trend that Beth Vaughn shows us is making waves in the Midwest.
After infertility problems and 2 failed adoptions, Lara and Justin Cruzy still hoped for a family of their own.
We just kind of told ourselves that, God's not going to give us something that we couldn't handle.
Since 2007, the Cruzy clan has more than doubled, starting with twins.
Hippos.
Lucy and Nora were adopted as embryos, leftover fertilized eggs from another couple's attempt at in vitro fertilization.
Ours were a local family from Kansas City area, and they had 3 frozen embryos that they donated or put up for adoption. And those are the ones that we got.
2 of the embryos survived the thawing process at this lab in the Shawnee Mission Medical Center. Then Dr. Dan Stewart made the transfer.
Once the embryos are out of my hand, literally and figuratively, my job is done. Mother Nature has to do all the other parts of the process.
Though he says the viability of any donated embryo depends largely on the age of the genetic mother and how long ago it was created.
How long can we keep an embryo frozen for is still unknown.
You see some blocks?
Leaving embryo adoptive parents with a number of unanswered questions.
Reproductive technologies are one of the most controversial of the ethical issues that we encounter.
Bioethicist and UMKC professor Wayne Vaught says if unwanted embryos from IVF aren't donated for adoption or research, they're destroyed, which for pro-life advocates has been a call to action.
For some, it's a moral response to what they see as an ethical dilemma with the technology itself.
And he says there are growing concerns about genetic identity. According to Dr. Stewart, there are embryos from one family that have been used for adoptions in 3 different local families, raising questions about the risk for incest as adopted embryo children start dating.
Midwest couples have been slow to donate, so even with all of the state-of-the-art technology I'm surrounded with, most donated embryos either come from the East or West Coast.
Social worker Chris Probasco says on average, embryo adoption costs families between $10,000 and $12,000, a little less than in vitro, a price many are willing to pay, even knowing that only half of the embryos result in pregnancies.
The child is not going to cure their infertility. A child's going to give them an opportunity to become parents.
It did so for the Cruzys.
That's why we want to share our story and let other people know about the possibility so that all of those frozen embryos can have a chance at life.
Right.
A match marked with miracles. About a year after the twins were born, they found out Lara was pregnant again, this time naturally.
The group, Adoption and Fertility Resources, claims there are about 500,000 frozen embryos, and only 10% of those are considered for adoption and donation. Beth Vaughn, NBC Action News.
Now, the Cruzys used an agency, but not all families do. You can go to NBCActionNews.com to see other embryo adoption avenues. The story is right on our homepage.